My involvement with AfricaLics actually started with my participation in the very first, I think, P.h.D. academy organized by AfricaLics. In 2011, when I was doing my PhD in Germany, I attended the AfricaLics Academy in Tampere, Finland for 2 weeks. And so it was a naturally easy choice for me when I saw the call for the AfricaLics Ph.D. Academy. So I thought, okay, if it has links at its end, then it must be connected to globally. So I clicked on the link that was sent to me at that time, read it up, and saw that, okay, so this was like the African hub of globally. So I thought this was going to be interesting. It was to be the first PhD academy that was organized by AfricaLics. And we had a very fascinating cohort in Nairobi, Kenya. I remember I had a number of colleagues from Nigeria, Dr. Wale Adejuwon and a few of them. I think Dr. Sheye Jegede was also there. And then a number of friends from Ghana, Dr. Richmond Atta Ankoma, and a couple of other people were there. That was when I met Anne for the first time. I met Vitrina for the first time. I'm not sure. I can't quite remember if Becky was there, but I think she must have been there. I can't remember now. Professor Mamumuchi was there, and a couple of other people. Watu Wame, Erika, Premambunga was there. It was a very fascinating 2 weeks that we had. A lot of deep reflections on where the discipline of innovation studies came from and how we could apply the fundamental principles in Africa. One highlight of that academy that I will not forget was the night we went to Carnival to eat different kinds of meat. But anyway, that's by the way, that's not quite academic, but it was the highlight was an interesting highlight for me. I learned quite a bit at that time, and it's interesting because in my PhD program then, we had people from roughly 40 different countries, and I was the only one from Africa at that time, although later a lady from Kenya was to join me. But when I started, I was the only one from Africa. So at the time that I was attending the PhD Academy in Kenya, I was the only one who was African in my PhD program. So the theoretical and the empirical discussions that we had kind of helped to strengthen my research a lot more. And since then, I think it's more like there's been no looking back for me. Now, there is a particular thing that happened at that academy, which I think is it has given me an incentive to continue to engage with AfricaLics, and now that's one of the reasons I'm contributing as much as I can to building Nigerian Leaks. I struck off a conversation with Richmond Atta Ankoma on the possibility of bringing our ideas together. Then I remember Richmond was working with Professor David Kaplan and a couple of other people at the Open University in the UK. They were working on how Africa could take advantage of the commodity boom to drive structural change and economic diversification. I was working on the microeconomic sources and effects of innovation and entrepreneurship on the economy. So we then came together with the idea of putting together a special issue on the basis of our own research. We issued an open call. We approached innovation and development, and luckily for us, the proposal was accepted, which was quite. It was, I would say, maybe not the first, but it was quite outstanding at that time because the body of scholars on innovation studies were just beginning to come together on the continent. And here were PhD candidates who had the idea of a special issue in what has now become a leading journal in innovation studies in Africa, or in developing countries in general. I remember that the editors were a bit ambivalent about our capacity to pull that off. So they decided to attach some senior scholars to us who could mentor us in the process. I remember that we had to work with Professor Edward Lorenz at that time. And so we issued an open call. We got some very brilliant submissions. So in the end, we thought that we would each write a chapter from our PhD thesis. In the end, we didn't even have space for that because we got very good quality submissions. So the special issue came out in 2016 eventually. and later was converted to a book by Routledge. It's titled Farm Level Innovation in Africa, Overcoming Limits and Constraints. And I personally think that, without my participation at that academy, probably that is not something that would have happened. I've gone on to do a number of other special issues and several other publications after that. But that particular one was like a starting point for me. It was the very first special issue that I did. And I like it because I got to meet the people whom we got involved in it at that academy. And since then, like I said, I've been contributing to building the network, strengthening the community in my own little way. I've been mentoring other younger academics. Well, I tend to think of myself as a young academic, but there are people, behind me, so I'm trying to mentor as much as I can. And I think on the back of that, I've also established long-standing relationships with very wonderful people. And, since then, I've returned to my role, after my PhD, I've returned to my role at NASTEM. Now I'm a Deputy Director of Research, and I get to consult for international organizations like the African Union, like NEPAD, like GIZ, like UNIDO. So it's been an upward journey ever since then, and I think there's a lot that I owe to my participation at the P.h.D. Academy at that time, and also my continued involvement in the AfricaLics community.